Welcome back. In 2018, our next guest became one of the youngest women to be elected to U.S. Congress. But less than a year later, she resigned over a leaked photo scandal that rocked the political world. Now she's sharing her story and her experience of misogyny, trauma, and resilience in a book called She Will Rise, Becoming a Warrior in the Battle for True Equality. Katie Hill, thanks for being here today.
Thanks so much for having me.
So, Katie, you resigned from Congress after nude photos of you were leaked online by a conservative publication. And they exposed a polyamorous relationship that you had with your ex-husband and a subordinate female campaign staffer. Now, the relationship with the female staffer was consensual, but the photos were leaked. The photos were taken without your consent and then leaked online without your consent. You have called this moment the darkest period in your life. So what compelled you to revisit this experience?
One of the biggest reasons I felt like it was important to share my story is because while it was happening to me, I knew that so many other women had been through similar experiences and were also going through the same kinds of trauma and the backlash that happens from what's commonly referred to as revenge porn, but is cyber exploitation. So I knew that by disappearing, I was in effect letting them win. And I already had so much that I was struggling with around that by stepping down. I felt like it was important to show that I wasn't going to go away. And for all the other girls and women out there, that we can recover, we can stand up, and we can say that this isn't going to define my life, forever.
During your resignation speech, you spoke openly about the double standard between men and women, because after all, there have been men at the center of larger political scandals that didn't end in their position being changed, especially at the highest levels. Certain presidents come to mind immediately. So how much do you think the criticism that you faced had to do with the fact that you were not only a woman, but an openly bisexual woman?
I don't know that we can say for certain that it wouldn't have happened to a man, but I do know that it was sensationalized and hypersexualized in a way that I do not think would happen to a man. When we've had similar things, occur with male politicians, we certainly don't see their photos published and shared nearly as much as these ones were. And biphobia, I think, absolutely plays a role in it. Again, because this is such a hypersexualized and sensationalized thing. So that added pressure and the nonstop nature of it, the fact that I was getting phone calls, my staff were getting phone calls and text messages and emails, and even people in the office who were just saying the most disgusting, disturbing things, was a big part of what added to, the decision to resign.
Now, you said that one of the most difficult moments in your resignation was telling Speaker Nancy Pelosi, with whom you worked very closely. Now, Pelosi actually recommended that you not step down. Now, and accountability can take so many different forms. So why did you feel that resignation was the right thing to do?
Again, I think so much of it came down to, in that moment, I felt like I had the responsibility of not being a distraction for my class and for my colleagues as we were going into impeachment. In fact, my last vote was to open the official impeachment inquiry. So I didn't want to be used as a tool to really take away from the seriousness of that. I also didn't want to be used by the Republicans to say that we as Democrats are hypocrites when it comes to, the standards that we're saying need to be set around power dynamics and around relationships with women and the Me Too movement. I'd been a big advocate for it. Obviously, I think that my situation is different, but I would never do it again. And so in that moment, I felt like, with the constant bombardment, the pressure it was putting on me, my staff, my family, my community, and the very difficult position it was putting my colleagues in, that the right thing for me to do was to step down. And, I don't know if that was the right call, especially after the district flipped back to being held by a Republican. I certainly have had my regrets around that, but we're here and I'm trying to make the best of it. And I'm hopeful that the district will flip back to Democratic control in November.
You've said that your ex-husband threatened to ruin you, and when you left him, and that's when the non-consensual leaked photos came out. And to this day, your ex-husband claims that he was hacked, and you're going to be pursuing this in court. But let's talk about this further. This idea of revenge porn. Would you have said this sort of falls into that landscape? But you said that you find that term problematic. How so?
Well, there's two things. First, the concept of revenge is one that people often associate with a crime or a misdeed being done for which a revenge needs to be exacted, right? And this isn't the case. This is, for so many women, the crime or the mistake that the woman has supposedly made is leaving the man, and that was the case for me. The second part is pornography, which is, that's entertainment when it's made consensually and when it's distributed by the mechanisms that we consume pornography. That's okay, but when it's done non-consensually, we shouldn't even call it that. We shouldn't give it that kind of glorification. So cyber exploitation, I think, is a better term. And I certainly didn't come up with that. That's coming from experts in the field that have been dealing with this far longer than I have. But I think that it's important to distinguish pornography from what's happening to victims of the cyber exploitation.
You say that political representation is the best way to achieve equality in all of our lives. And some people reject the idea that we should vote for a candidate with gender in mind, citing identity politics. But you say we should vote for a woman precisely because they are women. Why do you think this is the right approach?
Well, here in the United States, we just passed the point of having the right of women having the right to vote for 100 years. So for us to get to true equality, for us to get that equal representation, it's going to take more than us, just saying, okay, well, I'll vote for a woman, but not that woman. We see that all the time. We saw that in the presidential primaries, right? I want to vote for a woman, but she's kind of annoying, or I don't like her voice. And the point that I'm making in the book and in general is that we need to see the value in voting for a woman because she's a woman and because she's going to represent our interests and because it's going to help get us to parity, which is absolutely essential if we're going to push forward on an agenda that is going to ensure true equality.
You've shared that one of your biggest fears is that through sharing your story, it might put off some women from deciding to get into politics. So what would you say for anybody watching who wants to go that route but might be deterred? What advice would you give them?
I've come to giving the advice that probably isn't, it's a little dark, but I think it's important. And the major thing is that, what happened to me, I think is pretty much as bad as it can get. And I'm still here saying that I have no regrets for running, even though it turned out the way that it did. And that, it's survivable. And if you go into it with the knowledge that this can happen, but you can make it through, we need you. This is a sacrifice that we're asking people to be willing to make. And it's not something that happens to everybody, but it could happen. And I think being mentally prepared for that is something that needs to happen. And culturally, us putting more women in power is going to ensure that this is not the norm. And it's one of the reasons that I'm pursuing the lawsuit, because we have to make sure that there is accountability in place. And this cannot be, a normal way of trying to take down a female politician.
You recently launched a PAC called Her Time, which provides financial assistance and support for women who want to run for office. Would you ever consider re-entering politics, or do you feel you can be more effective from the outside?
I never planned on getting into politics in the first place. I was involved on the advocacy and issue side previously and loved my work. I think that, my passion for the cause has not changed. It's still there, and I'm going to stay involved in politics in some way, shape, or form. But I don't know that I'll run again. I also don't know that I won't. I know that right now that's not the direction that I'm planning on pursuing. And there are so many women that are deserve that opportunity that I'd like to make space for. So, and support however I can. And if one day, it seems like the right move to make, or that there's a reason that I should, then I'm not entirely closed to it. But it's not the priority right now.
Katie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Good to talk to you.
The book is called She Will Rise, and it's available everywhere right now. We'll be right back.